Okay, so to start one of these, this is the best I can figure. Be the first one I've done. We have our doghouse for the engine, and usually on these Dodges, I see them, they'll take up this whole recess. Now this one's a little odd because it's kind of shallow here and it gets deeper this way. So there might be a little issue there. I have kind of an idea what would probably need to be done. People have made, thousands of these things, if not millions, so we're not getting any new ground here. But here's how I would do it if you're maybe mechanically challenged or woodworking challenged or something like that. I just have a big piece of sketch paper. You can use poster board. This has a little bit of flex to it for where we need it in this deep part. But I'm just going to lay this back straight edge against this back edge here where it starts to curve up. So if the curve goes up like this, I'm putting it like right here, okay? Not where it's kind of binding up there or it's too short there. So I'm just going to start there. And I'm going to put a piece of tape on here, and then it'll help me retain it while I move around and kind of wrestle this paper into place to where we get a mark for it. What I'm going to do next is start establishing the perimeter, and since it's on a curve and the paper is not, I have to kind of rub it down in there. I would start back at this corner here and then just work my way around to this first turn right here. Okay, push it enough to where it leaves an impression, because there's some molded lines in here that are good kind of landmarks. So I'll just push it down in there firmly, make sure this is flat out here in the middle, rub all this down real good where it leaves creases in there, top and bottom. I'm going to make it down here to this first curve, and the paper is really folding up on me. So about there, and I'll start down this side now. Do the exact same thing. Make sure the paper is taut, which means kind of almost tight against itself. Okay, so I've come down to both corners, here and here, and now we just need to do this front edge. If we can kind of bring it flat again where there's no binding in it. It's just a good way to make a template when it's got all these curves going on in it. And I'll just draw that back. The pencil kind of guides in that really well. It kind of gets in a groove there. And the same thing until I get down to this corner. Then it kind of gets a mind of its own. Okay, so pull this out. One thing I'm going to do here, there's a little bit of an impression you see. I'm just going to kind of duplicate that and make our curve. Same thing here. Nice little radius. There's what we got. It's a little rough here, but what I could do, since it is a symmetrical shape, I can cut it at least down to here, fold it over 50%, and see how it compares to this side. Either way, I can match it with the scissors when I cut it. So right about there, about halfway. Just going to take it, try to match it with the other one as much as possible, which isn't too hard to do. Make sure our top here is flat on this edge. And you can see here's our line. Really, really close. I'll fold it there, and then just cut the rest of the way, following tightly against the folded over piece. There we go. Now we can do this little quick test fit back on the doghouse and see how it looks. Okay, so our board we got here is a nice cherry board. It's got a little bit of a rack to it. I mean, two of the corners are down and two other corners are up. If we shorten this up, it should eliminate a lot of that effect. The good thing about this cherry is it's a hardwood. It'll stain good and finish really well, and it's kind of a change from your usual that you see where somebody just grabs a piece of pine and cuts one of these out, and they could be made to look nice, but this just has a nicer grain, nicer color to it. So that's the way we're going to go. It's an inch thick, so make a nice sturdy base, and we'll even do the upper portion in the same stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure this is nice and flat. I'm going to bring it off this edge almost 1/4 inch, maybe about 3/8 of an inch here. A little bit more than 1/4. Say about there, because we have a couple notches right there. So make sure this is lined up. Use the least amount of material we can. Let's say right there. Now down here, we'll just put a rough line showing where it needs to be either sanded down or cut. So then I'll just kind of scribble the pencil around the edge here to get a nice mark on it. And then when you go to cut it, you'll just want to hang right on the inside edge of the pencil mark. There we have it. Might be a little difficult to see. It's right there. I think we can cut it with a jigsaw. In a lot of cases, if you can put it on a bandsaw, that'd be great. Right now, we just have the jigsaw. We'll give that a try. Make sure you use a wood blade. Okay, so now we have our piece cut. You saw all that, just a nice rough slab. It fits in there pretty good, just a little bit of movement, and a lot of that we could probably chamfer the edge a little bit, and some of that will set down in there really nice. But this is still rough cut territory. So one thing you could do, this whole top part is completely up to you. You could make it almost the full size with the, respect of the radio and the dash kind of curving out here the way it does on these Dodges. You could make it kind of curl out like a jelly bean. You can just chop it straight across here. You could do any variety of shapes. Mainly just, take account you're going to have some holes for your cups. And I went with about a 3 1/4 inch diameter size. That'll probably get most, for instance, I have a Yeti cup right here, and it would fit it right up to about here. Some of the larger ones and some of the smaller ones won't rattle around too much, and the larger ones will fit. So that's probably a good, size in general for it. So what I did here was anticipating doing, the mirror image thing again. So from the line, I measured a 1/2 inch off the line, which would give you a full inch total by the time you get it all said and done. So a 1/2 inch from there, that's where the side of our hole starts. So I put one here. I dropped an inch away as well, because it'll be an inch from the one on this side, so they're spaced evenly. I got an inch here, and I did another one. And I kept them about 7/8 of an inch off the very, very edge. So from here to there, there to there. So when I go to cut this, I can flip it over again, transfer the same circles on this side, either when I draw them on or I cut. It's however you're most willing to do it. Now up here, I'm going to put a couple slots. And what's kind of cool is back in the day, people would put like a slot in there. It would be, 3 or 4 inches, 5 inches wide, and I don't know, 3/4 of an inch thick, of a hole. And they would put, maybe their wallet, any sort of card of some sort in there. Well, nowadays it goes good for a cell phone. Will slip right in there. So we'll make it wide enough to do a fairly wide cell phone, and you can just prop it up in there, and it'll sit down on the part here and up inside of there. So that'll be good.
Stay-On Car Glaze is the racer's choice to protect their valuable racing cars. For over 50 years, Stay-On Car Glaze was available only to new car dealers. Now you can protect the bright showroom finish of your new car or restore brilliant shine to your older car's finish. With Stay-On's simple one-step process, you get the same protection of expensive commercial car glazing. Stay-On Car Glaze costs no more than ordinary car wax, and it'll protect your car's finish for years. Stay-On Car Glaze, guaranteed to last and last.
Okay, so we've got a hand planer here. And by the way, we're at my dad's. He has all the woodworking tools, so it's helpful if you either have the tools or know somebody that does. And so you can have a table planer, or this is like a handheld. And he started off with this one here. And ultimately it'll get sanded, but we want to take this real rough part off first. And depending on what your project is like, you may not have a rough cut board like this, but if you do, this just kind of helps cover that. Okay, so what we have here is a table planer. We couldn't run the big base piece there, it was too wide, but we can run our small pieces through here, our backup and our one that's already got the holes cut. And he's gonna explain just a general what you wanna do or not do on this one.
Which is the backwards.
Yeah, so you're gonna bring it down to the thickness of the board right here.
This is coming down to the thickness of the board. Getting closer. Right there.
Right about
Make
there,
contact. So what we'll do is just go a little bit more and we'll plane it. May not take off much, and we'll plane the other one at the same time. Pull this back out. Turn the vacuum on to pull the dust out.
Okay, so we've got this sanded down, and one thing I want to do, this is the bottom, since we have this little crack here, I want to put that down. We're going to put a groove all the way around all these drink holes. And what that's for, since so many drinks are different sizes now, they are thicknesses, you know, you might have the Yeti, or you might have the soda can, or a Red Bull that's smaller. And so you want to as little rattle as you can, but if you put something thick in there, you want to be able to hold it too. So with this closed cell foam, you can get this at a lot of the hobby stores. They call it cosplay foam in some cases. This is 3/8 of an inch thick. And I thought what we'll do, we have some more of this at home, cut large enough circles, and they'll fit right down in a recess that we're gonna route in here. And then it'll extend out here and we can put some nice cuts in there. That way if you put a thick container in there, it'll hold it. If you put a smaller container, it won't wiggle as much if it isn't touching at all. So he's got the router set up over here, and just kind of go around this circle. There's already a circle to follow, so it shouldn't be too awful hard. And we'll see what kind of damage we can do with that.
It can be clamped anywhere as far as that goes, as long as we don't get in the way of this.
There.
Yes.
Okay, so here's our piece here. He routed all four of them back about a 3/8 of an inch and a 3/8 of an inch deep, so that this set's almost flush in here. Like I said, we'll just cut some of these out, and even have some backups in case they ever rip or they get, you know, soiled or anything like that. And then you'll be looking at it from up here, and it won't look like it protrudes down too far. It'll just be a nice clean fitment. We could do some of these a little narrower of an opening and some of them wider, and just do them symmetrical. You can put different sizes in there and they won't be rattling around. So next we're going to worry about trying to put maybe a nice curved edge around here, soft radius sort of a thing, and kind of take that hard edge off of it. So
I have to come this way, the way I do it, and then rotate it around. Just keep your hands clear, like so, and I'll just come on around. Something happened there. I ran off or something. So, do that again. Did I get it?
let's go.
Now, I'll have to hit that again.
I can fan it.
You know what's going on here. We're giving away our trade secrets.
Okay, so we're back a couple days later. I have since sanded all this cherry hardwood down. We used 80 grit to get all the roughness down, and then proceeded to use 120, 180, and then a little bit of 320, not very much. The 180 and the 120 pretty much take it. It's very smooth. You can almost hear how smooth it is. So we're good on this and this. So we need to make some pedestals. You could do cherry pedestals. You can do them like spindles, which is like on a lathe, a very ornate look. I decided to go with just some regular stock dowel rod. And this one here, not that it necessarily matters, is 1.25 inches. And we're going to stain these black since it is a dissimilar wood. We're going to just stain them like a black. And obviously this will get like an old style stain on it. But you can do it anyway. These are just very basic. I decided it need to be 2 3/8 based on how we would set a cup in here in relation to this, so it's not too low or too high. So we'll do 4 of these, 2 3/8, and we'll go from there. Okay, so now that we got those cut, I'm just taking the little fray off the edge, a little chamfer on there. Okay, so we're going to start laying these out. I already have these holes. Well, they won't be holes, but they're location points for these. A lot of cases, if you use a smaller one of these or you have more here, you can countersink this so that it'll slip down inside there. But you'd have to make these a little longer to compensate for what goes into here and what goes into here. These, I'm going to make them kind of simple. We're just going to go a nice base glue right there, and then they'll have a screw that goes all the way through this, and then that. So it'll be pretty sturdy that way. We scratch the ends here just to give it a little bit more bite for the glue. So this will go on there. So I'm going to glue all these on here first. And then it'll give us a kind of a map to where to locate it on here. So get them all glued up and we'll go from there. Alright, so I let this glue dry for these little pedestals in the top part. It's just setting on this base, okay? And we did use the base, as you saw. That was kind of its weight. So I pressed the glue down against there and get a nice grip. So I have this kind of centered on here. And we're going to telegraph the pedestals, their positions, to the base. And we want to make sure we don't budge it or anything. We're just going to take a pencil and go around each of them best we can. And then we'll get our holes drilled to countersink some screws. I said earlier, you can do this anyway. If you want to countersink the entire pedestal, that's fine. Just make sure your measurements for the pedestals are long enough. Make sure we got all 4 of them. And there we go. I had these roughly marked. You can see how far they're off, but that's not something we want to go by with. So we'll just erase that for the time being, and it won't confuse any of you all. But this is the circles that we want to go by. So we're going to find center on these. I'm just taking, it's 1.25 inches, but you can actually just space 1 inch in there, and it'll really narrow it down for you and find midway both directions. There's our center. We'll get these others. So we're going to drill through this entire pedestal just enough to kind of touch this. We have our drill bit. It's just long enough to make the contact with this down here. If you get a longer bit, obviously you want to put a piece of tape on it so you don't go all the way through the top mount, okay? So I'm going to go through here. Sometimes it's suggested that you take like a rag with some channel locks in case this actually comes loose. If you're going at any significant speed, it'll burn your hands, that sort of thing. So just, or wear a glove. Make sure you have it secure, something like that. Especially if you're doing it out by itself. So we're going to center it up here. Start slow. Make sure we're going straight. We're not doing this where it looks, from this angle it looks good, or in that case it looks good there from your vantage point, but then we end up popping out the side. So try to keep it straight as you can. Make sure you clean your bit out. It'll grab a lot better. Once you get so deep, the bit will take care of itself as far as straightness. I'm gonna make sure we clean it out. And we just go on to the other 3. Okay, so here's the holes. We centered them best we can. And all 4 of them. Now over here, remember how we telegraphed our circles here. I'm going to find center on these. And this bit will be just a little bit larger. That'll give us some room for any discrepancies and you know, this hole being a little bit off compared to the others. So when we do that, we're going to countersink the underside so that it doesn't protrude out. We're going to countersink that. That way the screw head doesn't happen to want to ride all the way through there and you'll lose your grip on it. So now there's a groove here in this table. I'm going to use that if I happen to go through already. So here's our scribe marks, and we're just going to drill. You can use a drill press if you have to. We have that, but we want to try to use it the way you might have it at home. Okay, so I believe we went through. All right, we're just using a slightly larger bit here to get the countersink, and we don't want to get carried away and put it too deep because then it'll run our screw too deep and we'll have a nightmare. So. Okay, so you can see the countersink. The screw drops down in there. We want to take our piece here, and if we make sure it's all the way in, see, it'll go halfway into this. It won't be going too far. Okay, you want at least that or down. Too far, you're gonna have to either get a different screw or one or the other. We trimmed this screw down because what was this, a 4-inch screw? Mm-hmm. And we trimmed it down just a little bit so it would fit within these confines. So we'll do that on all these screws and make sure that we got it the right depth, because you don't want to have them all going good and then you get that one that misbehaves. So here's the side of the counter. This is the whole bottom. It's a little bit rougher. And since we did cut these down, we trimmed to get a little tip back on them. So likely you may not have to do that, but that's just what we had to do in our case. We'll improvise. So we'll set it back up. Alright, so we are back at the shop, the Hoosier Garage. Here it is. Getting ready to stain it, wipe it down. We're going to use this Minwax wood finish, Early American 230. That'll go good on this cherry here. So I'm going to go ahead and pop the screws back apart. We know it fits up good. And then we'll just do the pieces individually. And let's see how it comes out.
Now I'm gonna have to try to live without you. I guess that only goes to show I never got to really know all there was about you. We tried too hard and not enough. At times we seemed a bit too rough on one.
Alright, so the next day, many hours later, we put a polyurethane coating on it. This will probably be better on something like this, where you're going to have wet, sweaty drinks on there, over like a shellac or a lacquer. So polyurethane, You can get to this Minwax. So we use Minwax on the stain, and then we used it for the clear. So takes a little longer to dry, but it leaves a good coat of finish. And you could take it apart if you want to do this. I've got enough holes in here and enough access I can get in under there where the drinks will actually set. I'm putting just really one good heavy coat on here. Not too heavy, where it just starts to orange peel. And then 20 minutes later I come out and hit it again. Okay, so we have our tray here. It's got about 4 coats of polyurethane on it. It's nice and dry. It looks really good. At least in my opinion it does. I don't know about you. Playing with these little guys right here. I cut these out to give it a little less friction if you're putting some in there. And I decided to go to 2 of them instead of all 4. And that's on account of, you know, we're gonna have maybe some soda cans. And they're gonna sit in there. See, they'll rattle around, so that's where one of these would do really good once you get it in there. Any movement's going to be minimal, okay? So if we have one of those, now let's say we had one here, and we have a bigger cup. Now I could make one of these that actually is got a larger hole, and I might do that later. We're going to feel it out for a while, but see, it really puts a lot of pressure even on these little 4 nubs that stick out for our Yeti, okay? So what I think I'll do is leave these out for now, as that fits really good and there's not a lot of play in it. But the good thing is we've already routed out the underneath here. You don't see it from up here, but if we decide to put something in there later, whether it be more of this exact one here or a different size one, it'll be ready to go. So I'm going to take some of this 3M black super weather strip and gasket adhesive. We're gonna get rid of our drinks. We're gonna add these guys. All right, guys, we got it done. Thanks for coming along for the ride. In place, see how it looks here. Now it prompts me to, we're gonna have to fix this. A lot of it boils down. There's a big break that goes all the way down here. It's fiberglass, so we'll have to fix that and repaint it, because this is sure making it look pretty old. We have our rings up here in the front for like soda pop cans and thinner vessels, and then you can put your bigger ones back here. Now see how it's nice and stable. I did took some of that same rubbery closed cell foam and just did a little bit of figuring out. This one I had to put a little bit thicker there. So there we go on that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video of building our snack console. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're looking to build one on your own, or you got some skills and you don't really want to buy one, you're not sure, you're on the fence, maybe this will help you decide one way or the other. Great sense of satisfaction building it. It looks great. It's one of the little things you look forward to when you get a van like this. You got the CV, you got the overhead console, you know, you got the wheels and all that stuff, and then you got your little snack tray. You know, we got enough for a bag of chips up here to really bring it into that whole snack thing. So, yeah. Hey, thanks for coming to the Hoosier Garage. Check out our store below. We got some cool t-shirts, and we're looking to add some more soon when we get 1,000 subscribers. We're going to have 2 winners, have their cars included in that. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Tell everybody about the Hoosier Garage. See you next time.